Hey y'all, happy Wednesday. Oh, I'm sorry about Nathan yesterday. Appreciate you hanging on with us. But he's really cute, isn't he? 3, I can't believe he's 3. Oh, and y'all went through all that with me too. Like that was a whole ordeal when he was born. The Lord has been so faithful. You know, time would fail for me to tell. I'm just gonna stop a moment and be grateful and give him thanks. And that's what the writer of Hebrews says in Hebrews 11, in giving the Faith Hall of Fame. But really, it's not about the people, but it was about their God, right? What he did through them and who they knew he was. It didn't matter their circumstance. Some of these we will talk about this week, but they chose to believe God was who he says he was, and that he would never leave them, he would never forsake them, and that all things would pass away before he forgot his promise. Hebrews 11:32 says, "And what shall I say further? What else is there left for me to say? For time would fail for me to tell." And then it goes through all the list. Time would fail for me to tell of his faithfulness to me, of how he has constantly found me, and how he has constantly upheld me, and how he has constantly reminded me and constantly corrected me, ever so gentle, because he is gentle. So that's a great segue back to Elijah in 1 Kings. And so they've just had the showdown of Mount Carmel, right? Because out of all of the prophets in Israel, God's chosen people, he was the only prophet of God left. All of the other prophets had abandoned God, had turned to Jezebel's Baal, had turned to false gods. So in 1 Kings 18, where Elijah is actually setting up the Mount Carmel experience, Elijah says, I've not troubled Israel, but you have, and your father's house, by forsaking the commandments of the Lord and by following the Baals. He said, therefore send and gather to me all Israel at Mount Carmel, and the 450 prophets of Baal, and the 400 prophets of the goddess Asherah, who eat at the queen Jezebel's table. So there were 850 false prophets, and only Elijah remained faithful to God. Talk about a lonely place, to have been forsaken by all of those who used to worship with you, who used to pray with you. But the other things were more enticing. So anyway, excuse me, they go through this Mount Carmel experience where all of the prophets of Baal and Asherah do everything they can to call on their God, to light the altar on fire. And of course, their God doesn't come, because he is not real. And Elijah prepares the offering, prepares the altar, and at the right time, the scripture says in 1 Kings 18:36, at the time of the offering of the evening sacrifice, Elijah called out to the Lord, and he consumed the sacrifice. It's so amazing that he comes off of this high, right? And then in the very next chapter, we find him hiding in a cave. Elijah, the great prophet who just made a spectacle of the false gods, is now in a cave, hiding for his life. And we will pick up there tomorrow. I'll see you then. Bye, y'all.